Varys, commander of the Iridians, watched Earth cities burn on his view screen and laughed. This primitive species would be extinct within a week. He had no idea that he'd just kicked a hornet's nest of pissed-off humans. Suddenly alarms screeched, and Iridian blood splashed the walls. Varys spun as a crewman ran in. "Commander, the humans have killed thousands of our warriors. We're taking unsustainable losses." He would learn to regret those words. Back on Earth, retired Navy SEAL Logan Allen raced his motorcycle through debris-choked streets. When a general summons you to the Pentagon, you don't dawdle. Tires squealing, he skidded to a stop at the checkpoint. Military police waved him through. Inside, General Briggs greeted him with a grim nod. The war room bustled with frantic energy. "Allen, thank God you made it through that alien shitstorm." "What do we know?" Logan asked. "They call themselves the Iridians, and they want us extinct. They thought we'd be an easy conquer." The general trailed off as an aide brought him a casualty report. He sighed heavily. "Before the Iridians knocked out comms, we got scattered reports of them taking huge losses to our ground forces. Their tech is better, but our men are meaner." "How can I help, sir?" Briggs motioned Logan to a holomap of an alien mothership. "We have one shot. Kill their commander, this bastard named Varys, and throw their fleet into chaos. I need a small team, surgical strike, in and out, led by the best, led by you." Logan exhaled. A suicide mission. But if they failed, millions would die, not just soldiers, families, children, in an alien holocaust unlike anything imaginable. He saluted. "I'll do it, sir, for Earth." "Report to Lab 51 for your mission briefing and equipment. Humanity's fate is in your hands." Logan nodded, the weight of that responsibility pressing on his shoulders. He wouldn't let his species down. Logan's team boarded the captured Iridian ship in Lab 51's underground hangar. The vessel was sleek, its hull an iridescent black that seemed to absorb light. Lieutenant Eva Nova Novak sat at the controls, hands flying over the alien interface she had spent weeks deciphering. "Buckle up, boys," Nova said as the ship lifted off. "We're about to take this fight to their front door." Logan strapped into the seat beside her. "What's our ETA to the flagship?" 30 minutes, assuming we don't run into any surprises." As they approached visual range of the massive Iridian command ship, Nova intercepted a burst of alien chatter. Her brow furrowed as she worked to translate. "Shit, you need to hear this." She put it on the speakers and Logan's blood ran cold. Varys's voice dripping with malice. "The Star Ripper is ready. Once the Xenonite core is installed, we will tear their sun apart. Today, we erase humanity from the universe." The transmission cut out and Nova turned to Logan. "He's going to destroy our fucking sun. And he's using Xenonite mind from our own goddamn moon to do it." Logan clenched a fist. "Then our mission just got an update. Varys dies, the Star Ripper dies, and we blow that Xenonite stockpile straight to hell." Nova nodded and turned back to her console, fingers a blur. "I'm in their system. Internal sensors are down. You're clear to infiltrate." The strike team gathered at the airlock, checking weapons and sealing helmets. Logan laid out the plan. "We hit them on 2 fronts. Nova will guide us from here, Mac Hawk with me, we're taking the bridge and Varys. Doc Rook, Bishop, you're on the Star Ripper. Burn it down." The ship shuddered as it set down inside the flagship's cavernous hangar. The airlock hissed open, revealing a phalanx of armored Iridian soldiers. Plasma fire lit up the darkness. "Contact front," Hawk yelled, dropping to a knee and laying down blistering return fire with his saw. The Iridians were huge, each one a snarling wall of muscle and advanced armor. But they had never fought humans. Mac lobbed a grenade, and the aliens scattered. Bishop and Rook rushed forward in the chaos, shotguns roaring, making a hole for the team to push through. They split up at the first junction, trading nods as they headed for their objectives. Weapons up and moving fast. The ship's corridors were a twisting labyrinth, pulsing with eerie light. An Iridian in elaborate armor leapt from an alcove at Logan, swinging a crackling energy glaive. He ducked the blow and came up firing, rounds sparking off the alien's shields. It snarled and charged. Logan sidestepped and flung his knife. It punched through the alien's eye slit and it dropped. He put 2 more rounds into its skull to be sure and motioned his team forward. "Next level up, 100 meters ahead," her voice crackled over the comm. "I'm seeing heavy security." "Just how we like it," Mac growled. Logan and his team fought their way through the Iridian ship, plasma bolts sizzling past their heads as they returned fire. Hawk took point, his saw spitting death at any alien that dared show itself. They were close to the bridge when they heard a strange noise coming from a side corridor. "Hold up," Logan whispered, motioning for the team to take cover. He peered around the corner and his eyes widened. In a dimly lit holding cell, a group of humans huddled together, looking battered but defiant. Among them was a face Logan recognized from mission briefings, Dr. James Hoffman, the brilliant astrophysicist who had been working on a top-secret government project before the invasion. "Dr. Hoffman?" Logan called out, approaching the cell cautiously. The scientist looked up, his eyes widening with a mix of relief and urgency. "Thank God you're here. Listen, I don't have much time. I've developed a device, a singularity bomb that could destroy this entire ship, but it's incomplete. I need a specific component from Varys's quarters to make it work." "Mac, go with Dr. Hoffman to Varys's quarters. Get that component. Hawk and I will push on to the bridge. We'll buy you as much time as we can." Meanwhile, Doc, Rook, and Bishop had reached the Star Ripper's control room, only to find it swarming with Iridian elites. The aliens were huge, their armor gleaming under the eerie light of the ship's interior. But the human soldiers had a few tricks up their sleeves. "Rook, Bishop, lay down suppressing fire," Doc ordered, pulling a makeshift EMP grenade from his belt. "I'm going to try to get close enough to plant the charges." The brothers nodded, taking up positions on either side of the doorway and opening fire. The Iridians roared, returning fire with their plasma rifles, but Rook and Bishop were quick, ducking in and out of cover like wraiths. Doc waited for an opening, then sprinted forward, zigzagging to avoid the incoming fire. He slid behind a console just as a plasma bolt sizzled over his head. Working quickly, he placed the charges on the Star Ripper's pulsing power core. Just as he was about to arm the detonator, an Iridian elite loomed over him, energy blade crackling. Doc rolled just in time, the blade missing him by inches. He came up firing, but the alien was too fast. It lunged forward, stabbing Doc through the shoulder. Rook saw his friend go down and let out a roar of fury. He charged forward, firing from the hip, drawing the elite's attention away from Doc. The alien turned, swinging its blade in a blinding arc. Rook tried to dodge, but he was a split second too slow. The blade caught him across the chest, sending him tumbling to the ground. "Rook!" Bishop yelled, running to his brother's side. He dragged him back into cover, firing one-handed to keep the Iridians at bay. Doc gritted his teeth against the pain, fingers fumbling with the detonator. He armed it and tossed it to Bishop. "Go," he growled. "Get that to Logan. I'll cover you." Bishop hesitated, torn between his brother and his duty, but Rook grabbed his arm, his face pale but his eyes fierce. "You heard the man. Go. I'll be right behind you." Bishop nodded, clutching the detonator tight. He took one last look at his fallen comrades, then sprinted for the door, Doc laying down covering fire until the last possible second. As Bishop raced through the corridors, Nova's voice crackled over the comm, her words laced with urgency. "Logan, Hawk, you've got to move. Varys just ordered the execution of all human prisoners on board. You're running out of time." Logan exchanged a grim look with Hawk as they approached the bridge, the sounds of battle echoing through the ship. They were close, so close to ending this. But they had to reach Varys before he could carry out his final atrocity. They stacked up on either side of the bridge doors, weapons ready. Logan took a deep breath, meeting Hawk's eyes. Together they kicked open the doors and charged onto the bridge, guns blazing, ready to face whatever horrors awaited them within. Mac and Dr. Hoffman crept through the dimly lit corridors of the Iridian flagship, their footsteps muffled by the ship's humming engines. Dr. Hoffman clutched a handheld device, its screen casting an eerie blue glow on his face as he navigated the alien network. "Varys's quarters should be just ahead," he whispered, pointing to a heavily fortified door at the end of the corridor. "But the security is unlike anything I've ever seen." Mac grinned, pulling a pack of C4 from his vest. "Leave that to me, Doc. Stand back." With deft hands, Mac molded the explosive putty around the door's locking mechanism, inserting a detonator with a soft click. They ducked around the corner as the charge exploded, sending shards of alien metal flying. Smoke curled from the ruined doorway as they stepped into Varys's quarters, weapons raised. The room was a treasure trove of Iridian secrets. Dr. Hoffman made a beeline for a pulsing cylinder on the far wall, his eyes widening. "The singularity bomb component," he breathed, carefully extracting it from its housing. "With this we can end this war." But Mac's attention was drawn to a holographic display flickering in the center of the room. He tapped a few keys on the console, and a flood of data scrolled across the screen. "Holy shit," he muttered, his face growing pale. "Doc, you need to see this. The Iridians, they've got plans for Earth, mining, enslaving, everything. And Varys, he's not the real threat." Mac shook his head. "I don't know, but whoever they are, they're pulling the strings. We need to warn Logan." He keyed his comm. "Logan, come in. We've got the component and some major intel. Varys is just a puppet. Someone called the Overseer is behind all this." On the bridge, Logan and Hawk exchanged a glance as Mac's words crackled through their earpieces. The doors to the bridge exploded inward, revealing Varys flanked by his elite guard. "So the primates have come to die," Varys sneered, unsheathing a crackling energy blade. "I will enjoy watching you burn." Logan stepped forward, his rifle leveled at the Iridian commander's head. "It's over, Varys. We know about the Overseer. You're nothing but a pawn." Varys' eyes narrowed, his grip tightening on his blade. "You know nothing, human. I am the destroyer of worlds, the lapdog of a coward," Logan cut in, his voice dripping with contempt. "Too afraid to face us himself." With a roar of rage, Varys lunged at Logan, his blade a blur of searing light. Logan parried the blow with his rifle, the force of the impact sending shockwaves up his arms. Around them, Hawk engaged the elite guard, his augmented reflexes making him a blur of motion as he dodged and struck with inhuman speed. Logan and Varys traded blows in a deadly dance, the Iridian strength matched by Logan's skill and tenacity. Sparks flew as their weapons clashed, the air humming with the energy of their battle. "Your species is weak," Varys snarled, pressing his attack. "You will be crushed beneath the might of the Iridian Empire." Logan laughed, a harsh bark of sound. "You don't get it, do you? We're not like anything you've faced before. We don't quit, we don't surrender, and we sure as hell don't lose." He feinted left, then struck right, his blade finding a gap in Varys's armor. The Iridian stumbled back, dark blood oozing from the wound. Logan pressed his advantage, raining down blows on Varys's weakening defenses. With a final desperate lunge, he drove his blade through the commander's chest, the alien's eyes going wide with shock. "For Earth, you son of a bitch," Logan growled, twisting the blade. But even as Varys slumped to the ground, his hand shot out, slamming a button on the console. Alarms blared throughout the ship, a cold robotic voice echoing through the corridors. "Self-destruct sequence initiated. All personnel evacuate immediately." Logan pulled his blade free, turning to Hawk. "We need to get the prisoners and get the hell out of here. Move." They sprinted through the ship, the countdown to destruction ringing in their ears. As the robotic countdown echoed through the corridors, Logan and Hawk raced towards the holding cells, their boots pounding against the alien metal. They reached the cell block, plasma rifles at the ready, and blasted the locks off the doors. Prisoners stumbled out, blinking in the harsh light, their faces a mix of fear and determination. Among them was Captain Marcus Maverick Jensen, his flight suit torn and bloodied, but his eyes still blazing with defiance. He clasped Logan's hand in a firm grip. "Not on my watch," Logan replied. "We're getting you all out of here, Maverick. I need your help." As they hurried the prisoners towards the escape pods, Maverick explained his plan. These pods are programmed to head straight for the Iridian base on the moon. We can use them to infiltrate and take out their Xenonite stockpile. Logan nodded, his mind racing. It was a desperate gambit, but their only chance to strike a crippling blow to the Iridians. They reached the escape pod bay, just as another explosion rocked the ship. Hawk herded the prisoners into the pods, his saw at the ready. Go, 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 we don't have much time. Across the ship, Mac and Dr. Hoffman sprinted through the collapsing corridors. The singularity bomb clutched tightly in the scientists' hands. Iridian soldiers appeared ahead, plasma rifles raised, but Mac cut them down with a burst of fire. The trio piled into the last escape pod, strapping themselves in as Mac punched the launch sequence. The pod blasted free from the dying flagship, hurtling towards the moon. In his pod, Logan gripped the controls, his eyes locked on the looming lunar surface. Beside him, Maverick studied the Iridian readouts, his brow furrowed. There, he said, pointing to a massive crater. That's where they're hoarding the Xenonite. As they descended towards the moon, a blinding flash lit up the void behind them. Logan glanced back, watching as the Iridian flagship exploded in a silent conflagration of light and debris. Logan's heart sank. They had struck a blow against the Iridians, but the war was far from over. If they couldn't stop the aliens from establishing a foothold on the moon, all their sacrifices would be for nothing. He gripped the controls tighter, his eyes narrowing as the Iridian base grew larger in the viewport. They had come this far. They would see it through, no matter the cost. The pod hurtled towards the lunar surface, alarms blaring as it neared the Xenonite crater. Logan braced himself, ready to face whatever horrors the Iridians had waiting for them. Earth's fate hung in the balance, and he would be damned if he let it fall. The escape pod hurtled through the void, streaking towards the pockmarked lunar surface. Inside, Logan gripped the controls, his eyes locked on the looming Iridian base. The pod slammed into the ground, skidding across the grey dust, before coming to a jarring halt. Logan kicked open the hatch, rifle at the ready. His team poured out behind him, fanning out to secure the perimeter. The lunar base rose before them, a sprawling complex of domes and towers, bristling with alien weaponry. "Stick to the plan," Logan said, his voice crackling over the comms. "We get in, find the Xenonite, and blow this place straight to hell." They moved out, hugging the shadows, their boots leaving prints in the lunar dust. At the base's airlock, Mac cracked the control panel, his fingers flying over the alien interface. The doors hissed open, revealing a dimly lit corridor. As they pushed deeper into the facility, a grim realization began to dawn. This was no mere mining operation. The corridors were lined with holding cells, each one containing human captives. Their faces were gaunt, their eyes haunted. Logan's blood ran cold. The Iridians weren't just harvesting Xenonite. They were experimenting on humans. A voice called out from one of the cells, "Please, you have to help us." Logan rushed over, peering through the energy bars. A woman in a tattered lab coat stared back at him, her eyes wide with desperation. "Dr. Emily Saunders," she said. "I'm a geneticist. The Iridians, they've been using my research to develop a bioweapon. They're going to wipe out what's left of the resistance." Logan's grip tightened on his rifle. A bioweapon. The stakes had just gotten a whole lot higher. "Where are they producing it?" he demanded. Logan turned to his team, his jaw set. "Change of plans. We split up. Mac, take Dr. Hoffman, Hawk, and Dr. Saunders. Free the prisoners and sabotage the mining operation. Maverick, Doc with me. We're taking out that bioweapon." They moved out, each group heading towards their objective with grim determination. Logan led his team deeper into the base, the corridors twisting and turning like a labyrinth. Suddenly an inhuman roar echoed from up ahead. Logan signaled for a halt, his rifle snapping up. Around the corner shambled a grotesque figure, a human form twisted and bulging with unnatural muscle. Its eyes were blank, its mouth drooling. "What the hell is that?" Maverick hissed. "Genetically modified test subject," Dr. Saunders whispered over the comms. The Iridians have been experimenting on humans, turning them into living weapons. The creature charged, moving with blinding speed. Logan opened fire, the muzzle flash strobing in the dim light. Bullets tore into the creature's flesh, but it kept coming, its wounds sealing before their eyes. It slammed into Logan, sending him crashing to the ground. His rifle skittered away, just out of reach. The creature loomed over him, its fists hammering down like pistons. Logan rolled, the blows cracking the floor beside his head. He lashed out, his combat knife sinking into the creature's thigh. It howled in pain, black blood spurting from the wound. Maverick and Doc opened fire, their rounds stitching a line up the creature's back. It staggered, its movements becoming sluggish. Logan lunged, his knife driving into its chest, piercing its heart. The creature toppled, twitching as the life drained from its modified body. Logan stood over it, panting, his knife dripping with gore. "These were people once," Doc said quietly, his face pale. "What the Iridians have done to them." "We'll make them pay," Logan growled. "But first we have a mission to complete." They pushed on, the sounds of battle echoing through the base as Mac's team fought to free the captives. At last, they reached the bioweapon lab, its doors sealed tight. Logan planted a breaching charge, the explosives hissing as they burned through the alien metal. The doors blew inward, revealing a cavernous chamber filled with pulsing machinery and bubbling tanks. Iridian scientists looked up in shock, their hands scrambling for weapons. Logan and his team opened fire, cutting them down before they could react. They moved through the lab, planting explosives on every piece of equipment they could find. As they worked, Logan's eye fell on a computer terminal, its screen flickering with alien script. He moved closer, his brow furrowing as he tried to make sense of the data scrolling past. A cold dread settled in his gut. The stakes had just gotten a whole lot higher. Earth wasn't just fighting for its own survival anymore. It was fighting for the fate of every sentient species in the universe. Logan cursed under his breath. They were running out of time. He keyed his mic, his voice grim. "Understood. Finish planting the charges and get the hell out of there. We'll rendezvous at the extraction point." He turned to Maverick and Doc, his eyes hard. "Let's move, we've got a galaxy to save." They rushed from the lab, the countdown to detonation ticking in their ears. The fate of countless worlds hung in the balance, and the only thing standing between the Iridians and total galactic domination was a handful of human soldiers fighting against impossible odds. But then again, Logan thought as he ran, impossible odds were what humans did best. It was time to show the galaxy what happened when you pissed off the wrong species. The battle for Earth had just become a war for the stars themselves, and Logan and his team would be damned if they let the Iridians win it without one hell of a fight. Peering around a corner, Mac spotted a group of emaciated humans in a holding pen. He motioned the others forward. He placed a breaching charge and blew the lock. As the smoke cleared, Mac saw hope kindle in their eyes. "You're safe now. We're getting you out of here." As Dr. Saunders tended to the wounded, Dr. Hoffman examined a glowing green vein of xenonite in the wall. His face paled. "The Iridians, they're not just mining this for weapons. There's too much. It's for something bigger." He accessed a nearby terminal, hands flying over the controls. "My God, it's a terraforming device. The xenonite powers it. If activated, Earth's atmosphere will be altered, poisonous to humans. The device links to a satellite network around Earth. We'd have to destroy them all to prevent activation." Hawk stepped forward, jaw set. "I'll do it. I can fly one of their fighters, hit those satellites." Mac nodded grimly. They had to move fast. Across the base, Logan, Maverick, and Doc battled through the bioweapon labs. Genetically modified abominations hurled themselves forward, Dr. Saunders' research perverted into tools of destruction. Logan put down a charging mutant, teeth clenched. Even warped, they'd been human once. There was no saving them, though. Only mercy. They reached the central lab and Maverick hacked the door. Inside, vats of bubbling green bioagent lined the walls. Doc looked over the files, face grim. "This shit is nasty. tailored to human DNA. If released, then let's torch it. They planted charges around the room. As the timers ticked down, Logan accessed the mainframe, downloading everything he could. The data scrolled across his HUD, and Logan's blood turned to ice in his veins. The Iridians had been planning this assault for decades, and Earth was just the start. At the heart of it all was the Overseer, an AI guiding their conquest, and it was here in the dreadnought above. Logan opened a comm channel. "Hawk, change of plans. I need you to hit that dreadnought. Target the comm array. If we disrupt Overseer's control, the fleet is crippled." "Roger that," Hawk replied, prepping the Iridian fighter in the launch bay. One space turkey coming up. As the fighter blasted into the void, Hawk was all focus. Earth hung below, beautiful and blue. He wouldn't let it fall. Iridian craft swarmed from the dreadnought like angry hornets, autocannons blazing. Hawk dove into their midst, luring them away from the lunar base. Emerald beams crisscrossed space, stitching deadly patterns. Hawk jinked and rolled, G-forces slamming him into his seat. A salvo of missiles streaked away, bright as newborn stars against the void. They struck the array and it crumpled, spewing fire and debris. Hawk whooped in triumph, even as the remaining fighters fell on him with renewed fury. He would buy the others all the time he could. On the lunar surface, the team scrambled to evacuate the captives to the escape craft. The charges were set. Everything was in place. Logan took one last look over the base, eyes hard. This was a blow to the Iridians, no doubt, but the war was far from won. Earth still hung in the balance, and out there, hidden among the stars, the Overseer plotted the downfall of humanity. High above Earth, Hawk whooped in triumph as the dreadnought's comm array exploded in a shower of sparks and shrapnel. The Iridian fighters around him scattered in disarray, their coordination shattered. "That got their attention," Hawk said over the comm. "You're clear for approach." In the captured Iridian transport, Logan nodded grimly. The lunar base was a smoldering ruin behind them, the Xenonite stockpile reduced to molten slag. But the war was far from over. "Set course for the dreadnought," he ordered Maverick. "It's time we had a chat with this Overseer." The transport banked hard, engines flaring as it accelerated towards the massive alien ship. But before they could reach it, a priority message crackled over the encrypted resistance channel. "This is Captain Sarah Reed, call sign Athena," a woman's voice said, tight with tension. "We have a situation on the ground. The Iridians are making a push for one of our research facilities in the Amazon. They can't get their hands on what's inside. Her prototype weapon, something that could finally give us the edge we need. But my team is pinned down. We need backup." Logan hesitated, torn. The Overseer was within reach. But if the Iridians got their hands on this weapon... He made the call. "Mac, Doc, take Dr. Saunders and head planetside. Link up with Athena and secure that prototype. The rest of us will deal with the Overseer." "Roger that," Mac replied. "Give 'em hell up there." As the transport angled towards Earth's atmosphere, a squadron of sleek Iridian fighters rose to meet them, plasma cannons glowing ominously. "Looks like they're rolling out the welcome mat," Maverick said, hands tight on the controls. One fighter surged ahead of the others, its hull marked with scores of kill markers. A cold alien voice crackled over the comms. "I am the Reaper," it said. "Your path ends here, humans." He punched the throttle, and the transport leapt forward, cannons blazing. The Reaper's fighter twisted away, impossibly agile, and the dogfight was on. The two craft danced and wove, engines screaming, plasma and tracer rounds stitching the void. The Reaper was good, anticipating Maverick's every move. But the human pilot had a few tricks of his own. Maverick jinked hard, flipping the transport end over end in a stomach-churning maneuver that left the Reaper's shots slicing through empty space. He came out of the roll with the Iridian dead in his sights and squeezed the trigger. The Reaper's fighter exploded, shrapnel pinging off the transport's hull. Maverick let out a breath, hands shaking on the controls. "Not bad for a primate," he muttered. On the ground, Mac and his team hit the jungle at a run. the lush foliage whipping past as they raced towards the coordinates Athena had provided. The air was thick with humidity and the chattering of alien wildlife. They found Athena's team dug in around the research facility's perimeter, locked in a fierce firefight with a force of Iridian shock troops. Mac and Doc hit the aliens from the side, saws chattering, while Dr. Saunders sprinted for the facility's entrance. "The prototype is in the central lab," Athena shouted over the din of battle. "We can't let them get to it." Mac nodded, reloading on the move. The Iridians were pushing hard, their armor shrugging off rounds that would have dropped a human soldier, but the resistance fighters were dug in deep, and they were fighting for their world. The battle for the facility raged on, plasma and bullets filling the air. As high above, Logan and his team closed in on the dreadnought and the final confrontation with the Overseer. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy, hung in the balance. Maverick yanked the Iridian fighter into a sharp climb, the G-forces slamming him back into his seat. The Reaper matched his maneuver, cannons blazing. Sweat beaded on Maverick's brow as he rolled and juked, the deadly dance of the dogfight playing out against the backdrop of the dreadnought's looming hull. "Come on, you bastard," he muttered, lining up his shot. "Let's see how you like this." "Scratch one bogey," Maverick said, his voice tight with satisfaction. "Logan, you're clear to board." Logan's transport swept in, latching onto the dreadnought's hull like a metallic parasite. Cutting torches flared, and then they were inside, the ship's dark corridors stretching out before them. Iridian soldiers were on them in seconds, plasma fire filling the air. Logan and his team took cover, returning fire with precise bursts. The alien guards fell one by one, but more took their place, pouring from hatches and side passages. An automated turret dropped from the ceiling, its muzzle glowing as it swiveled to track them. Dr. Hoffman lunged forward, his fingers flying over a wall panel. The turret sparked and died, its circuits fried by the scientist's override. "Move!" Logan barked, taking point as they pushed deeper into the ship. They fought their way to a central nexus, a cavernous chamber lined with pulsing conduits and flickering holographic displays. Dr. Hoffman raced to a console, his hands a blur, as he hacked into the dreadnought systems. "I'm in," he said, his voice tight with concentration. "Accessing the Overseer's core programming. My God." He looked up, his face pale. "The Overseer, it's not just an AI. It's a fusion of Iridian tech and a human mind. A scientist named Elizabeth Blackwell." Logan's breath caught. Blackwell? She disappeared years ago. The Iridians must have captured her, used her brain as the basis for their AI. Dr. Hoffman nodded grimly. Her consciousness is still in there, merged with the alien code. If we can reach her, maybe we can reason with her, convince her to shut down the Iridian war machine. Logan hesitated, the weight of the decision heavy on his shoulders. Then he nodded. "Do it. It may be our only chance." As Dr. Hoffman worked to establish contact, Logan's thoughts turned to his team on the ground. They were counting on him to take down the Overseer. He couldn't fail them now. On Earth, Mac led his team through the dense jungle, the sounds of battle echoing through the trees. They burst into a clearing to find the research facility under siege, Iridian troops swarming over its defenses like armored ants. Athena was there, her rifle barking as she fought to hold the line. Mac and his team joined the fray, their weapons adding to the cacophony of combat. They fought their way into the facility, the corridors filled with smoke and the stench of burnt plastic. In the central lab, they found the prototype weapon, a sleek cylinder pulsing with unearthly energy. "An EMP device," Dr. Saunders breathed, her eyes widening. "Capable of shutting down Iridian tech worldwide, but it needs a power source, something like—" "Xenonite?" Mac finished grimly. "From the transport ship?" Athena nodded, her face streaked with soot. "We can modify the drones we captured, use them to deliver the EMP across the globe, but we need time to upload the code." Mac chambered around, his jaw set. "Then let's buy you that time." They took up positions around the lab. Mac and his team forming a living barrier between the Iridians and the prototype. Wave after wave of alien soldiers crashed against them, but they held fast, their weapons spitting defiance. In the heart of the dreadnought, Logan watched as Dr. Hoffman established contact with the Overseer. The holographic display flickered and a face appeared, a woman's face, her features a mix of human and alien. "Elizabeth Blackwell," Logan said, stepping forward. "Or should I call you Overseer?" Logan shook his head. "It can and it will, because we have something worth fighting for, something you once believed in before the Iridians twisted your mind. We have our humanity." For a moment the face flickered, a hint of uncertainty in its eyes. Then it hardened, the alien influence reasserting itself. "Humanity is weak," the Overseer said, its voice echoing through the chamber. "You will be assimilated, your individuality erased. Resistance is futile." Logan raised his rifle, his finger tightening on the trigger. "We'll see about that." The final battle for Earth had begun, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Logan faced the Overseer, his rifle leveled at the shimmering hologram. Dr. Blackwell's face stared back, eyes glinting with cold alien intelligence. "Stand down, Logan," the Overseer said, its voice a jarring fusion of human and machine. "You cannot win this war." Logan shook his head, jaw clenched. "We'll never surrender. Humanity will fight to its last breath." "And that is why you will lose." The Overseer's hologram flickered, and for a moment a glimmer of Dr. Blackwell's humanity shone through. "But there is another way." Logan's grip tightened on his rifle. "I'm listening." "The Iridians seek the human genome. It holds the key to unlocking the next stage of evolution. Surrender the singularity bomb. Allow us to study your species, and we will spare Earth. We will elevate humanity to its true potential." He thought of the sacrifices his team had made, the lives lost in the fight against the Iridians. Dr. Blackwell's principles, the very foundation of scientific progress, had been twisted into something unrecognizable. "You're wrong," Logan said, his voice steady. "What you're doing goes against everything Dr. Blackwell believed in. Science should serve life, not destroy it." The Overseer's face contorted, the human and alien sides warring for control. "You do not understand the greater purpose. The Iridians will bring order to the chaos of the universe." Logan's hand drifted to the singularity bomb, his fingers brushing the hidden failsafe. He met the Overseer's gaze, a plan forming in his mind. The Overseer tilted its head, interest piqued. "Name them." "You spare Earth and you help us rebuild. No more invasions, no more experiments. Humanity charts its own course." A long moment passed, the Overseer's hologram flickering in silent calculation. Finally it nodded. "Agreed. Now the bomb." Logan stepped forward, every muscle tensed. He held out the singularity bomb, his thumb hovering over the failsafe. The Overseer reached for it, Dr. Blackwell's fingers brushing the metallic surface. In that instant, Logan activated the failsafe, a soft click echoing through the sudden silence. The Overseer's eyes widened, realization dawning. "What have you done?" Logan smiled grimly. "Giving humanity a fighting chance." Alarms blared as the bomb's countdown began, the failsafe triggering its detonation sequence. The Overseer's hologram vanished, and the bridge plunged into chaos. "Time to go," Logan yelled, already sprinting for the exit. His team fell in behind him, plasma fire scorching the air as Iridian guards poured into the room. They fought their way back to their ship, the dreadnought shuddering as the singularity bomb's power built. Maverick was in the pilot's seat, engines roaring to life as they leapt aboard. The ship tore away from the dreadnought, racing against the expanding sphere of darkness at the bomb's heart. The implosion rippled outward, consuming the alien vessel, shattering its hull into a billion shards of twisted metal. Logan watched from the viewport as the Overseer's ship vanished, a sense of grim satisfaction mixing with the weight of what he'd done. The bomb had bought them time, but at what cost? So on Earth, Mac's team raced against the clock, the EMP device primed and ready. Dr. Saunders worked feverishly, her fingers flying over the controls as she made the final adjustments. Athena and her resistance fighters held the line, their weapons blazing as Iridian forces closed in. The jungle echoed with the roar of battle, the air thick with smoke and the stench of burning metal. "It's ready," Dr. Saunders shouted, her voice hoarse. "But someone has to stay behind to activate it manually." Dr. Saunders smiled sadly, her hand hovering over the activation switch. "For Earth." She slammed the button down and the world went white. The EMP pulse ripped outward, a wave of energy that washed over the planet, shorting out every piece of Iridian technology in its path. The alien forces crumpled, their weapons and armor suddenly useless. The tide of battle turned in an instant, the resistance surging forward with renewed fury. But the victory was bittersweet. Dr. Saunders lay unmoving, her body crumpled beside the EMP device. Athena too had fallen, her rifle still clutched in her lifeless hands. Mac knelt beside them, his head bowed. They had won the day, but the cost had been high. In the aftermath of the Iridian defeat, Logan and his team returned to a world in ruins. Cities lay shattered, the scars of war etched into every surface. But humanity had survived, battered but unbroken. As the rebuilding began, whispers of a new threat emerged. A galactic conspiracy that stretched beyond the Iridians, a darkness that threatened to engulf not just Earth, but the entire universe. Logan stood on the edge of a precipice, staring out at the stars. A cryptic message blinked on his comm, a call to action from an unknown ally. He knew what he had to do. Gathering his team, Logan set out on a new mission, a quest for truth in the face of an uncertain future. The fight for Earth had been won, but the war for the galaxy was just beginning. The stars beckoned, and Logan answered their call. For the sake of humanity, for the sake of all life, he would uncover the truth and stand against the looming darkness, no matter the cost. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.